sucker.
Hey everybody, welcome. My name is Matt. I'm here with Andrew. Today we're going to be talking about The Lost Boys, the vampire movie that brought vampires into the modern age, all the juicy 80s tropes that came with it, and Cry Little Sister. So grab your popcorn and Reese's Pieces and let's break it down on the Post Credit Podcast. Pulling pranks and whatnot, but then you see him in this role and he's kind of a little bit more serious.
Well, and when he was the voice of Donatello in the first Ninja Turtles movie, he was just like kind of a skater.
Yeah. But, you know, I mean, having, I don't know, like, it's also kind of funny because, you know, both those kids grew up together, you know, Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, and, what, Corey Haim, did he kill himself or...
I think he overdosed.
Drug overdose.
I think what it was is a drug overdose.
Okay.
And that was actually just recently. To get into what we're talking about today we're talking about The Lost Boys. In honor of Joel Schumacher, who actually passed away in June. We decided to do this episode on The Lost Boys, and this is a childhood movie that we kind of both grew up with, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of one of those ones that was always, you know, present, and you knew it wasn't scary, but it was also kind of rated R. So I mean, we were, I was maybe 6, six when it came out. So, mom and dad wouldn't let us watch that movie.
But we watched it.
We watched it anyways. But still, it's a classic movie. It was kind of scary at the time.
You just
at that
gave away
age.
your age.
Yeah. Well, I don't care. I don't care. But it was just it was kind of a scary movie at the time. You know what I mean? It was a little freaky. Especially seeing half these people that. With vampires, because you got to take an account with what type of vampire this was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because before this, you had all the old school vampires. This was the first movie to actually bring vampires into like the new generation, the MTV generation or whatever they call it. Make them sexy or whatever. Yeah, it was like they were trying to say that somebody from what are these stupid hair bands? Like Guns Twisted Sister,
or something like that, and they were like, "Hey, let's make them into vampires."
Well, they even mentioned one of the Frog Brothers when they kill, or when them and the dog kill the blonde one. They were like, "We killed that Twisted Sister looking vampire upstairs," and they're like, "Well, Nanook did, but we have, But
it was like bad hair, bad hair band vampires, and a very young Kiefer Sutherland in this film, and
he had just come off of Stand By Me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what he got casted for. He was in another role. I'm trying to think of it. I know he did like some Canadian films and maybe even some plays. But I know he did.
Is he Canadian?
I can't remember. I think he is. I think him and his dad both are. But I think what he wanted to do was kind of make a name for himself, and so was doing Canadian films without any help from his dad, even though he had the last name.
Yeah, and his dad's Donald Sutherland. If you've seen like The Italian Job or something like that, then you know who he is. And wasn't he on the Supergirl movie?
Who's that?
Donald Sutherland? In
the very first Supergirl movie?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Oh,
no, there's.
I'm probably thinking of somebody else with that.
Yeah, I forgot what that dude's name. That's not Peter O'Toole. Gosh, he's a classic actor. But,
yeah.
But yeah, this movie, The Lost Boys. It's like I said, it brought the vampire genre, the vampire movie, into kind of the new age. Because before this, it was always just dusty old Transylvania vampires. And there's a couple things here, a couple movies here and there, but nothing that really blew up like this. Lost Boys came out in 1987. It was directed by Joel Schumacher. It was written by Janice Fisher, James Jeremias. Both of them had talked. Jan Fisher was actually a writer on The Golden Girls. And she had a conversation with her friend James Jeremias, and he had talked about how the reason that Peter Pan and the Lost Boys never age, never grow up, and Peter Pan always comes out at night and all that. He was saying, oh, it's because they're vampires. And she's like, oh, that would make a good movie. So, she started writing this, included his name for his idea and everything. And they wrote this as like a PG movie. So basically the kind of tagline when they were all pitching it is basically Goonies go vampire. Yeah. The premise was, Goonies age kids, 10 to 13-year-olds, fighting vampires, fifth graders against seventh graders or something like that, you know. So it was just supposed to be kind of this, about Peter and the Lost Boys, but then it kind of and they were going to bring Richard Donner on because he had just come off of the Goonies, but then he got the job to go do Lethal Weapon, so he just took an executive producer role in it, and they eventually got Joel Schumacher in there, and he wanted to make it more sexy. He's all about bat nipples and everything like that. He wants to make things sexy. So anyways, they kind of revamped the script. He convinced the studio to let them bring the ages of the all the cast up to teenagers, and to make it darker and make it an R-rated movie instead of a PG-rated movie. And then they brought in Jeffrey Boehm, who also has writing credits on it as well. He's the one that kind of spoofed it up to the teenage.
Well, and if you imagine, with the Lost Boys from Peter Pan, you know what I mean? They're all usually pretty rugged and and wearing, there's no mothers, that's a big thing, no mothers and no fathers to really teach them how to wear and dress, and so that came into that effect. And then even the head vampire actually was kind of very clean cut, and was very professional and this and that, and because later on you do find out that he is the lead vampire, but
he's kind of a red herring, but then he ended up being a double red herring.
And man, you see him nowadays, and he's got the full beard, that actor, and he's a pretty good actor. But what I liked about this movie a lot is just because it kind of personifies the 80s on the West Coast, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or the 80s on the beach, what was it, like Santa Monica Pier?
Well, it was Santa Carla.
There we go.
And they had filmed in Santa Monica, which was kind of like the murder capital of the world. Yeah. And there was a nearby town called Santa Clara, and so they kind of just messed with the name a little bit and made their own fictional town called Santa Carla.
But that's that's what you imagine growing up on these beach towns, where it's got the pier, and then they have all the games, like the carnival games and stuff like that. It's kind of a personification of that time period, in that place, or that type of place. You know what I mean? It was, and I love the fact that they had a comic book store on the pier. I thought that was just awesome.
Yeah, and I said Santa Monica, I meant Santa Cruz. Okay. That was what was considered the murder capital of the world, because at that point they did have I think it was like 3 serial killers that had killed something like 16 people or something like that.
Louise.
Up to that point, so they were all at the city of Santa Cruz, which they filmed in. They were already stuck with that tag, and they didn't want this to be associated. They liked the script, but they said, you can do it, you can film it here, but you can't call it Santa Cruz. So taking a cue from the nearby Santa Clara, they named it Santa Carla. But
do you realize that again, like a lot of these beach towns and things like that, the houses are usually kind of made the same way, same design back in the 80s, I mean, it just kind of brought it back with the leather jackets, and the bad hair, and I mean, and did you know that this movie was filmed in 3 weeks?
I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's very quick.
Filmed in 3 weeks.
But when you think about it, I mean, there's a lot of movies, I mean, you hear some of the shortest time schedules are like 2 months or whatever, and sometimes it's 4 to 6 months or whatever for bigger movies.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, the only scenery in the entire movie is, at the house, at their grandpa's house,
the boardwalk,
and the cave. You know, so I mean, really, just 3 places that they had to film. So if you think about it, you know, as long as you can get, you know, some of these actors, I guarantee you that the
cave and the interior of the grandpa's house were both sets that they built.
Yeah, yeah.
So the only like on location type shots that were, besides like the exteriors of the house and the cave, is the boardwalk. So I mean, that's like the really on location thing. And you know, I guess the cast had tons of fun. You know, Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, they were younger. They enjoyed riding the rides and stuff.
Well, you also know this is the first film with them together, right?
Right. This started the whole Corey trend with the 2 Corys. Yeah, before a string of bad professional and personal choices led them down a different road.
Yeah, but then we're also finding out nowadays that Corey Feldman's telling a lot of people about a lot of different things that happened to them.
It's the whole pedophilia thing that's erupting in Hollywood now, and you know, you got certain people who we won't mention that are seeking citizenship in Greece and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you got. It sounds like a lot of people are nervous, so there's got to be a lot of legitimacy to it.
I mean, I'm hoping that it's, you know, it's not as prevalent as, you know,
it's pretty bad from what I hear.
I know, but it's gross to think about it, you know, because I mean, like we grew up with a lot of these actors,
and it's tragic for these
in Hollywood.
Kids too.
Oh, extremely. That's the most important thing, you know, is what it's doing to the kids. But you know, I mean, we grew up with all these actors, you know, and watch their films and things like that, and then we're just like, you know, this happens, you know.
And like in an interview, I mean, even Kiefer Sutherland was asked, but like, what was it like working with Corey Haim? And you know, he was like, you know, this guy was so talented, and see him come off these different projects.
Yeah.
But he mentioned how even then they were all worried about kind of he was being taken care of, or his interests were being watched over in the right way and everything. Right. So even kind of then, I think that there was some kind of suspicion that things weren't going good for Corey Haim and the people that had you know, his interests in their hand.
Yeah. Well, and you see it's happening with all these, you know, child actors and things like that, you know, where it's pretty cool because, you know, with this film, it did have 2 more movies afterwards. The
Tribe and The Thirst.
Yeah, I've seen The Tribe. I haven't seen The Thirst, but I wouldn't recommend watching.
They both have 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not that we really give much credence to the aggregate scores, but you know, they're pretty. I mean, they were direct to video, and the only reason they made a third one is because the second one did make some money off of I think just off of nostalgia.
I guess
with you know, all the people in there. Sorry, that's my bad. Yeah, all the people in the 80s, the people that grew up with the Lost Boys, you know, it's that nostalgia or whatever.
Yeah. What'd you think about, you know, the casting for, you know, the female lead?
Well, I mean, we can get into the casting.
Not the mom necessarily.
So the female lead is Jamie Gertz. A lot of people know her from Twister.
Yeah. Right? I was telling my wife that I was like, hey, do you recognize her? And she's like, that's that girl from Twister. And I was like, yes, it is.
Yeah, but a lot of people like you know, that's the thing that like she's, I guess, you know, more known popular for. But I mean, she had done a bunch of different movies. Not a lot of real famous things
before this one here, or
no, yeah, before this and after. It's just that, you know, she never really blew up or anything. She actually only got this role because she was in a film. What was it called? No, it wasn't a film. It was a play. She was in a play with Jason Patric, the lead of this film.
Yeah.
And they were in a play together.
A lead in this film.
Right. And he had a crush on her.
Really?
And so what happened was Joel Schumacher wanted the lead female to be like this pixie girl, you know, this waif, like this real short hair, blonde waif. And they were auditioning, and nobody made sense. And then Jason Patric's like, you know, what about Jamie Gertz? You know, you know, he had a crush on her, and she was a good actress and all that kind of stuff. So they brought her in. She pretty much automatically got the part after that.
Which, if you notice, she hardly had really any dialogue throughout the whole movie.
She didn't, but it's been. I've looked at this and I haven't confirmed it, but from what I've read, it's been said that Kiefer Sutherland actually has the least amount of lines in this film, but his are like always like the closing of the scene, the punctuation. He had the coolest lines, which is pretty cool. I mean, if you want somebody to deliver some lines, you know, like, I mean, the looks that he gives and the voice of his, like, he was absolutely perfect for this role.
Yeah, and what's crazy about that too is that he, you know, again, having a famous father like that, you know, and none of these actors really, were famous yet. Even the Coreys were not famous. They were looked at as, okay, well, this guy's from the Goonies, and when he was a lot younger or whatnot, or was it before? Was Goonies before or after? I think
Goonies was before this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so was Stand By Me, which is where Kiefer came from.
Yeah. And, but, just seeing, some of these, there's no real big name actors except for, I would say at the time, Kiefer Sutherland, just because of who his dad was.
He was emerging and everything, and obviously there was his dad, Donald Sutherland. He'd done like Straw Dogs and all kinds of. I mean, he has a filmography that goes back quite a bit, and he's just played some amazing characters over the years.
Yeah, he's made his bones,
Yeah, and he was actually Donald Sutherland in another vampire movie called Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, I thought it was Black.
No, remember he was the guy who the Merrick, the one that trained Buffy.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, him versus Rutger Hauer or whatever. But
yeah,
I think the most. I would say the most popular.
I love Buffy, by the way. I'm just going to say that out.
I know you do.
I love the TV show. I love the movie. I mean, I watched both of those things, and they're great movies.
Yeah, the veterans that were well known in this movie, it was definitely Diane Wiest, Bernard Hughes, who played Grandpa, Diane Wiest that played the mom Lucy, and Edward Herman who played.
She
Max.
looks so young in this movie.
She does, and she plays an ex-hippie. Who's kind of coming out of the 60s and 70s and everything.
Jason Patric's character was going to be called Moonbeam.
Moonbeam or Moonshine or some stupid thing like that. But Star's good. That's what he said.
Yeah, but what, the little boy vampire was what, Laddie?
Yeah, Laddie. Played by Chance Michael Corbett. The cast for this, you had Jason Patric, who's the lead in Michael. Corey Haim plays his brother Sam. Diane Wiest, as we mentioned, played their mom. Bernard Hughes is the grandpa. Edward Herman plays a video store or a videotape store owner. Kiefer Sutherland as the main head of the vampires, David. Jamie Gertz as Star. Corey Feldman and Jameson Newlander as Edgar and Allan Frog, respectively. And they took those names off of Edgar Allan Poe. To name those two characters, and then you have a few others.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
holy cow.
Yeah, and so they have a few others that played the other vampires. Most notably, probably though, is Alex Winter as Marco, who also we know as Bill from Bill and Ted.
Yes, which
is coming.
Yeah, it is coming,
but we want to wait until the new movie comes out, and then we're going to review the 3 movies as one episode.
I'm excited about that.
I really am too, and I think that might be the last episode of this season.
Yeah. Okay.
So
okay.
I think that's what we're planning. We're just waiting because that movie comes out August 28th. So we're just waiting for that to come out. But this movie follows Michael, Sam, and Lucy, played by Jason Patric, Corey Haim, and Diane Wiest. They come to town to move in with Lucy's dad, just known as Grandpa in this film, never given a name.
Or Pops or something like that, right?
Yeah, never given a name or anything, but she's just been divorced. And as he says in the movie, you're the only woman I know that is worse off after a divorce. Because apparently she just wanted to get away from it, so she didn't get alimony, she didn't get child support. I mean, they just took off, and they got divorced, took off. She didn't have anything except for the boxes that they had in their car, and so she moved in with him. So she's trying to start a whole new life. They move to Santa Carla, which is, as Michael sees spray painted on a billboard when they come in.
Capital.
It's the murder capital of the world. And they start to get a sense that some weird things are going on. But the movie opens up, aside from the amazing song, Cry Little Sister, by Gerald McMahon, also goes by I think G. Tom Mack or something like that. He wrote this movie for he wrote this song for the movie Cry Little Sister. And he hadn't seen the movie. All he had was a script, and he wrote it basically about a child who longs for.
Has he done anything else?
No, and all he's really done over the years is remix that same song over and over.
Yeah.
He loves the song as much as we do, and he likes to remix it. But he basically wrote the song about a child who longs for a family and everything, which kind of goes along with the Lost Boys and this movie. But such an amazing song. It was recently redone by Marilyn Manson. Lucas sent me that link a couple of years ago, And it's pretty good. It's a pretty good version of it. I mean, it's one of my favorite songs of all time. And every time I hear it, I just get goosebumps. I love it. The choir, the children's choir, and all that. I mean, they brought in InXS and a bunch of different other bands to do songs for the movie.
Yeah.
And they even did a music video for one of the bands, and it just did not pop like Cry Little Sister has. I mean, I think Cry Little Sister has much of a cult following as the Lost Boys does.
Right.
But anyway, so they moved to town. The opening, after that song plays, you see David and his three friends, and they're causing problems at the boardwalk. And afterwards, a security guard that kind of threatened him gets lifted off the ground, and you assume he's murdered. And that's how the movie kind of kicks off, and then it becomes all about the vampire hunt.
Yeah, and see, let's kind of talk about that for a minute as far as the type of vampire film this one is, because in every film that has iteration of vampire, does a little different. This one we're talking about, they fly. They can.
This is the movie that made them cool.
Yeah.
Before I said, it was like the Transylvania Vampires.
Right.
Interview with a Vampire, the Twilights, all those movies that came afterwards. It was thanks to Lost Boys.
Yeah, because what we're used to before was the black cape, the suit, or the suit and tie, black hair, slick back hair, pointy ears or whatnot,
Right.
That's our
sleeping in coffins with their arms.
Yes.
I want to suck your blood.
But that's the kind of vampire that we were used to before. Now this one, they can fly. You can't see them in the mirror. Garlic really doesn't do anything to them, and but yet holy water does, I guess, apparently. And and
it depends on the vampire. It kind of. I was kind of confused when watching it until I got to the point of explanation in the movie. And for years, I had assumed that, okay, so garlic doesn't work for him, but like holy water does, and stakes to the heart does, and sunlight, right? Now, why? Towards the end of the movie, we find out that the main vampire is actually Max, the guy that the mother has been dating, but they had invited him in the house early in the movie because they expected him to. They suspected him to be the lead vampire.
Right off the bat, really. I mean, right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, he was only they had only ever seen him at night, all that kind of stuff. And I was wondering because they gave him the garlic, they gave him the holy water, and nothing happened to him. But the other vampire burned up in the holy water. Yeah. So I was like, why didn't that affect him?
Because the dog came in and saved his life.
Well, I always thought that it was just because he was the head vampire, so he's just more powerful than the only thing that worked with a stake. But at the end, he said, when they were like, you passed the test, how is that possible? But he said, you invited me in, and when you invited me in, it took all your power away. So holy water had no effect on them because they took their power away from him.
Right.
And so that's how they explained that. But what I liked about this movie, and it was copied by Buffy the show and Buffy the movie. Yeah. Was it by Buffy the movie? What this movie established was that they don't have to have vampire face the whole time or look like vampires. Right. They can just do what they want, and then they can turn their little vampire face on when it's time to feed. And that's what Buffy did in the show, but I don't think they did that in the movie.
Well,
I can't remember.
Yeah, they did because.
So they could turn back and forth in the movie?
Yeah, I believe so. And the thing is if you looked at the type of makeup, they must have used the same people because...
Well, Joss Whedon had said that they had based that off of Lost Boys because Lost Boys did it first.
Yeah, but it's exactly the same between the two. You know what I mean?
Yeah, with the eyebrow bridge and everything.
Exactly. So it's got to been, obviously he did get the influence from there, so...
Yeah. Well, this movie, it starts off like we had explained before. Michael goes to a concert with his brother Sam, and this has got to be the most 80s concert I've ever seen.
Did you see those chains and things hanging from his neck? From around his neck. It's I'm just like, what is going on here? It couldn't have been that bad, but you look at some of these artists and. They got more makeup than their roadies, on.
Yeah, the lead singer slash saxophone player of this band that's playing on stage is Timmy Capello, and he was actually the saxophone player for Tina Turner.
That's hilarious.
And I believe he was just as shirtless on stage with her as he is in this movie. But
he was proud. He was very proud.
I know, and they asked Jason Patric and Kiefer Sutherland in an interview, what was it like to watch that being filmed and everything like that? And Jason Patric's like, well, I oiled him up. And Kiefer Sutherland's like, yeah, and I filmed it, so
I kind of believe that.
They had a good joke about it, but I laugh every time. I'm pretty sure everybody laughs every time they see the saxophone. I mean, I got to give it to him. At least he goes for it. I mean, he's not shy about it. I mean, he knows who he is. He knows what he does, and
even back then, you wouldn't.
I still believe.
I just can't believe people actually went to those concerts. That's what kind of surprises me, because that was a thing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they had much choice. It's just the only thing playing on the beach. But I mean, obviously they drew a big crowd and everything. But it's at this concert that he meets, or that he sees Star. This is kind of a creepy scene. I mean,
he's kind of stalking her.
Yeah, he stares at her like real creepily, But
then she, stares back at him like smiling.
Right. They make it normal and everything. But in real life, you stare at a girl like that, it's gonna creep her out. I mean, I don't care, I mean, maybe if you're Hollywood good looking, you can get away with it. But I mean, typically, if you see a girl you like, you go and talk to her, at least see if she wants to talk to you, before you just stare at her creepily and then follow her out. He follows her, and Sam is kind of tagged along, and then he splits off and goes to a comic book story. Michael finds out that Star is with these bikers, with David and the other vampires. Of course, doesn't know that they're vampires right now. They get on their bikes, and they kind of race around. He gets in with their whole clique, and we get to the scene of when they're in this sunken hospital. Sunken hotel from an earthquake that happened a while ago or whatever. But that's like their lair. It's in a cave. And that's when they have this scene about, eating the Chinese food, and that the rice is maggots and the noodles is worms and stuff. Yeah. Did you get like that maybe David had some kind of hypnotizing powers where he could make Michael think that that's what it was, or what was going on there?
I
mean, obviously it was kind of to help trick him into drinking the blood, and whenever she said it's blood, he's like, yeah, sure, because they had just tricked him twice.
Right.
So, I mean, what is that, like a hypnotizing thing? What do you think?
I don't know. I think it was just all about the visualization. When you're thinking of vampires and you're thinking of, it was to kind of, I think maybe like almost a representation of death, in a sense. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of foreboding, showing him these images somehow, because this is what they are, is death. You know what I mean? Because they're dead and vampires.
That's a good point.
I think maybe in a way it was just kind of a way to show them who they really are without having to show them like the vampire face. But it's just kind of a representation of what they are.
Yeah, because in this world, the rules of the because each vampires have different rules and different iterations and everything. So what it is here is once you drink the vampire or the blood of what we thought at the time was the main vampire, but once you drink that blood, then you're like half vampire, and you don't become full vampire until you make your first kill, and that's when there's no turning back. That's why David and his other three people, his other three group. There's no hope for them. They've already turned. Yeah. They've already made their kills and stuff. They're full on vampires. But Star and the boy, Laddie, they hadn't made their first kills yet. So there was still some hope for them to turn back, but they had to kill the lead vampire. But the same thing with Michael.
Yeah, and they didn't really like show her so much of being a vampire. Like you get to see Laddie,
She flew up to the window, that was about it, but she never changed her face.
But yeah, you don't really I was trying to think if I actually saw her change face, and it was almost like,
there was no room for a powerful woman back in the 80s, Andrew.
Oh, really? Sigourney Weaver. Sarah Connor. No, but it just It was kind of, there was a silliness to the movie. Didn't you notice? Did you notice that it was kind of like
well, it was playful.
It was corny. It was a little corny,
but it still holds up today.
It does. But
that's the thing, is that a lot of vampire movies don't, or even movies back from the 80s. And I'm not just talking about the effects or anything like that, but the story was just so well paced, so well written. All the lines, they all had, all the characters had their, except for the other three vampires, they all had like, depth to them, even though there were so many different characters. Within the few minutes that we meet them and everything, that you get the sense of all the different characterizations of everybody. Nobody was really one or two dimensional. You got some depth from it.
Well, except for the other frog brother. He was very
but even him, I mean, it was supposed, I guess they're supposed to be kind of kindred. What they did was like they had Corey Feldman and this other guy watched like Rambo movies and Chuck Norris. So basically Corey Feldman is channeling Sylvester Stallone, which you could tell when he talks like this.
Well, and because he's got the red headband as well.
Yeah, exactly. He's got the Rambo headband. So he was made to watch Rambo. The other guy is basically Chuck Norris, where he's more quiet, more reserved, and he's focused on what he's talking about and everything like that. Yeah.
Well, and for it to stand up as well as it has, is pretty epic. I think, in my opinion, that movies made in the 80s were the greatest movies thus far. The greatest
that's
period,
probably because that's our childhood.
Yeah, that is our childhood.
80s and 90s.
But I mean, you get movies like this. You get movies like Karate Kids. You get movies like
The Goonies.
Princess
Bride.
Yeah, Terminators. Things like that. I mean, the classic movies that nowadays, for the past 20 years, really, people just been continuing to copy.
Yeah, like Little Monsters. That probably doesn't hold up as well today. That's the one with who was the host of that briefcase show? Howie Mandel.
Howie Mandel. Yeah,
he played the
Bobby's World.
Yeah, we'll have to. That was a pretty good movie, but I don't know if it would hold. But I mean, you have those classic movies that hold up for the most part today because there's not a lot of, even in this movie there were special effects, but
But it's all camera work.
Yeah, and it's all in
work.
camera. They did a good job. Even with the flying, it didn't look too crazy. It didn't look like there was blue screen behind them or anything. They obviously did wires and all that. But it looked really good.
Well, like, especially watching Jason Patrick, when he first starts to float, you're just like, how did they do that? Because, they took him from inside the living room or inside the room to outside.
Yeah.
It's like, how did they do that? Even though, again, they didn't have CGI like they have it nowadays, and until basically, George Lucas stepped up and said, hey, we need to have some good effects here, but just seeing stuff like that, just the way that they use the camera work to make special effects that work, that you can't, you don't run into the same problem Justice League and Superman having a beard or not.
Hopefully they're going to fix that next year, so we'll see. But one of the gripes, I guess, about this movie was the blood. The blood is very unrealistic. It's more like a brown copper color. I think there was one moment where I saw that it was dark red. The rest of the time it was like this kind of just like this brown goo. Especially when they killed Marco, Bill from Bill and Alex Winter, and it just got all over him and stuff. But what they did is they added silver flakes to the blood to make it pop on camera, to make it shine and everything. So I thought that was cool, And talking about the effects and a vampire movie and everything, Jason Patrick, I think he turned this film down 3 times before he finally decided to do it. Kiefer Sutherland's like, I just accepted it. I was looking for any work I could. I was just starting out, and Jason Patrick's like, I probably should have accepted it because I had no money. They were both new actors and stuff, but he kind of wanted to be a serious actor, and he was worried about a vampire kids movie and all this. So, but they convinced him to get in there. I'm glad they did, but He
hasn't done much.
He did a few things like Sleepers. That's probably my favorite movie of his, with Brad Pitt and Robert De Niro in it. He was in Speed 2. I don't know why he turned down Lost Boys so many times, but went ahead and went for Speed 2, unless he turned that down a few times too. But I'm a huge proponent and fan of Speed. Have been my whole life. It was my favorite movie when I was younger, but that part 2, that just wasn't as good. And Keanu Reeves, they actually gave him the script and he turned it down because he couldn't see how it would make sense.
Thank God.
He was the only one.
Because seriously, it's like you go from a bus on a road.
And Sandra Bullock was going to turn it down too.
Friggin' cruise ship.
Yeah, and I think Sandra Bullock was going to turn it down too, but they had said if she came back for it, they were going to let her do something. I can't remember what the details
they probably listed her name first in the credits.
It was kind of a tit for tat thing the way she came back. But getting into this vampire mythology here, so they have to drink the blood to become half vampire, and then they have to feed to become full vampire, right?
Right.
What was and Laddie is obviously, she's not Star's kid, because he's on the milk carton missing, missing child on the milk carton like they used to do. So he's probably a child that she just took under her wing once he got into this. What was the need to make this kid a half vampire? I mean, obviously they would have had to give him the wine and have him go through the process.
Right.
That's one thing that maybe they felt they had to have a kid because that's why Star was sticking around and everything. But what was the reasoning behind making that kid a vampire or half vampire?
I think it was just to, because remember the main vampire guy wanted, he wanted a family.
Right.
He wanted a family. And so I've got a real good feeling what ended up happening there.
Oh, great. The blood-sucking Brady Bunch.
Yeah.
That was my Corey Feldman impersonation.
That's pretty good. No, but, he wanted a family. He wanted basically a family of vampires, probably to rule that whole area, just in that sense. And so that's why he wanted,
a coven.
The mother. Yeah, the mother to be the mother. And then, Kiefer Sutherland probably got that girl for Kiefer Sutherland so that he would still do his bidding or whatnot, and then probably got the child for the girl for Kiefer Sutherland, that his character or whatever. And
maybe, but they had made the point that all the vampires didn't seem that very interested in any of the girls or Star and everything. I know that point's been made, but I'm like, they flirted with the girl on the carousel who had the boyfriend that they got into a fight with at the very beginning, and they flirted with the girl at the video store that worked there.
But then you're starting to look into the psychology of the vampires.
I think they were more. I think
that's
just wanted
deep.
the blood and the feeding and everything. They weren't looking for girlfriends.
I mean, you think about it. It's not like they had a kid named George. The kid's name was Laddie. Okay,
yeah, it just threw me off that why they would
get that.
Why they would be like, because I'm picturing him having to go through the same process Michael did to become half vampire. Obviously, they did it to Star, but then bringing this kid in and saying, here, drink some of this. I don't know. I'd have to look at the process of that. That's maybe just something that you have to accept.
Yeah, exactly. There's those things that you have to accept. Like the Terminator taking a motorcycle, jumping off of a bridge and landing on the ground, at least 100 feet down, and yet,
wouldn't pop those tires, mess up the suspension.
No, wouldn't do nothing. But and have what Terminator weighted about 1,000 pounds. They pointed that out. So I'm pretty sure that motorcycle would have blown up. I mean, it's just kind of one of those things you accept, or like how what was it the MythBusters did? They did a thing where they basically proved a lot of these special effects, the things that happen in movies, like you throw a match in some gasoline and just have this huge, massive explosion. Where in reality, you throw the match in the gasoline and it's just going to be put out.
It's not the liquid that burns; it's the fumes.
So my question was, in getting in this at the beginning of this movie, David and his three friends, his three other vampires, they come into a Maxis store and they're roaming around. And, he's obviously annoyed with them coming in because, he doesn't want any connection to them. You don't know that until later. You think it's just, oh, they're hooligans, get out of my store. But really, he doesn't want to be connected to them. But that's why he's like, don't come to my store. So they obviously meet somewhere else or whatever. Yeah. But they do that, and it seemed like they're doing it just to mess with him. And then later on,
but you notice they don't rob anything from him.
Yeah, but then
they don't even really give him guff.
But they don't. But they obviously they walk out and everything. And then later on, they throw they fly around his house and then throw that bat kite at him, and he's kind of like looking around. It's kind of obviously it's meant for the audience to think, he has nothing to do with them, and maybe they're messing with him too. But when you see like that, they keep messing, throwing the bat thing at him and all this kind of stuff, and you get different things throughout the movie. You get the sense that maybe they don't like him very much, and maybe David wants to usurp him. Did you get that sense? That's the sense I got. Or it could be, he's like, these are my boys, you have your family, these are my boys. Maybe it's just a rebellious teen rebelling against his quote-unquote father.
I think it was more, again, the way the director and the writer and everything, they wanted this to basically look like they're the Lost Boys, right? And then the guy is the Peter Pan character. You know what I mean? So if you notice, it's like they're they're stuck at a maturity level.
That being said, David's original name in the script was Peter, and they changed it to David. So he was supposed to be like the Peter character, even though you still had that guy that was supposed to be behind the scenes. Call him Hook.
Yeah.
Max's Hook, maybe, or something. I don't know. But yeah, that was supposed to be Peter, going with the whole Lost Boys thing.
And I kind of feel like, these vampires, all of them, even Kiefer Sutherland, it was more, more animalistic. They had more animalistic nature. It was they were kind of pretty much animals at that point. You know what I mean? Like basically like carnivores in the wild.
Yeah. Did they drink blood or did they actually eat the bodies?
That's
because you never see, because all the missing posters are just missing. They never find any bodies. So I'm like, are they just like flying them into the ocean and dropping them in the ocean to get rid of them, or are they drinking the blood, or are they eating the bodies? Because like afterwards, it looked like they just left those guys at the campfire during the walk this way scene when they fed and everything. Looks like they didn't do anything with the body, so I guess that's kind of more left ambiguous. But I guess that goes with the monster thing. I think
it was just pure.
I think you're right with the monster thing. It's impounded by the fact that you have all these a taxidermy of Grandpa.
Exactly.
You have all these dead monsters like Lion's Head and different beasts and stuff like that are dead but still alive, kind of like the vampire.
And we even find out that the Grandpa knew about the vampires the whole entire time.
Yeah, he was being a little coy with his...
But also the Frog Brothers, where did they learn about vampires? In comic books, right?
Probably. But not from their parents who were sleeping in the background the entire time, those hippies.
Like what the heck? I mean, were they even alive?
Those
or
are the
what?
best parents ever.
No, but they learned everything they knew from comic books, and those comic books even talked about the half vampires. You know what I mean? Like
and the hellhounds.
And the hellhounds, and that's the thing. The comic books, so this is a world that you kind of figure that, they have all these, missing child things on the milk cartons, which was a big thing back in the 80s and stuff like that, where they would put kids' faces on the milk cartons. But, it seemed like the people that are from this area kind of know that there's vampires, and you do kind of find that out in the second one.
Well, and I think one of the Frog Brothers were like, we are pretty sure that werewolves and something else are hold places in government, or like they're like in the mayor's office or something like that.
That could have been kind of like putting your foot in the door to hold the door open for you on that one, just in case this one blew up so big.
And then you do like what Universal's trying to do with their dark universe with vampires and Van Helsing and all this kind of stuff.
Why are you going to... what did they started with the Mummy first, right?
Was it the Mummy?
I'm pretty sure it was the Mummy.
They're linked up. Because what are the...
No, it was The Shape of Water, right?
No.
I know, I'm kidding.
I'm like, don't mention that. No, I think it was originally with the Mummy with Tom Cruise. And they were going to build off of that because they had different characters. Like I think Van Helsing was in that or something.
Right. But why start
Russell
with the
Crowe's,
Mummy?
Oh, Russell Crowe was the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I think.
Yeah, but why start with the Mummy? Really,
Why start with Tom?
I got you.
I love you, Tom Cruise. Yeah, but you're a weirdo.
No, he's good in a lot of movies.
Yeah,
but anyways, people in this town obviously knew that there was vampires, right? And so,
do you think?
The grandpa knew. The grandpa and the Frog
Brothers.
Yeah.
But that's an old man and two kids that had been reading too much comics. Obviously, people knew like something was going on, the murder capital of the world and all that.
Yeah.
But, I think it was real rare. I think Max did a pretty good job of keeping them on the leash as far as covering your tracks.
And you would kind of think that maybe the grandpa, I don't know, the grandpa seemed to have kind of a pretty wild life as it is. He was just a hippie, I mean, he really was a hippie. Like the king of the hippies or something.
I see him like a little bit of a younger age, hunting vampires or something.
Yeah, or something. I mean, but you would kind of think that maybe he would kind of give a little warning to his grandchildren, saying, "Hey, you might just be a little careful out there."
But they would just look at him like he was crazy, right?
But no, just say, "Hey, look, this is the murder capital of the world."
Yeah, he's crazy, Grandpa. He I loved his character. He was so just eccentric and so funny. Just everything he does is hilarious.
Do we have any cologne or any kind of smelly good stuff? Yeah, there's some Windex.
Let's Corey Haim's reaction is like.
But it's luckily at the end, here comes Grandpa saving the day, in the long run. So I guess you got to give him a pass there, know. So
Do you think Michael is actually interested in David and the gang, or is it all about Star?
Well,
That's how it started.
human nature.
But do you think that he got in with that gang and was like, these guys are kind of cool. Maybe because he bought a leather jacket, and I realized that he saw David with a leather jacket, and so he's thinking, okay, maybe Star likes these guys that ride bikes with motorcycles or with leather jackets, so I got to do that too.
Well, we've lived in so many different places when we were younger and things like that, So we know how it is. You come to a new town, you try to fit in with a group, and having a girl that apparently liked him and he liked her back, also helped as well, But I think it was just more of a, he was trying to fit in.
I think it was like it started off with Star, but I think he was really seduced by David. I mean, you get the notion in all vampire stories that they have some type of way to seduce people into thinking that they're desirable and all that, and wanting to be part of their lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. So that it makes them easier to kill. Yeah, it's kind of like a hunting technique that they have. They're able to put their prey into some kind of a hypnotic trance where they really seduced and really are attracted to not only that person or the vampire, but the lifestyle and everything. But I think it started out with Star, and I think but then when it started to get real crazy and he started to get all these symptoms from the blood and everything, and he was floating, that's when he was like, okay.
Well, it was so funny because they had a harder time, I think, trying to make Corey Haim's character believe in vampires than any of the other characters in them,
Well, the mom.
But even
it took her to the very end.
I know, but in a way, she kind of knew something was up. You know what I mean? She wasn't just like, vampires, you guys are just.
I don't know.
Dumb.
At the beginning, she saw the missing posters, and that made her freak out because she had this look kind of like, I've brought my kids into this place. But the whole movie, they'd been yelling about this and that, and Michael's been going through all these things, and I think she was afraid that her kids were just kind of having problems adjusting to life, the new life that they had in this new place. And it's a place that you have to be careful. And back in the 80s, you could do that. I mean, nowadays, if you walked into or if you moved to a place like that, the mom wouldn't let you go anywhere. It'd be so protective and stuff. But back in the 80s, it's like, you guys go to the boardwalk.
The street light comes on, you come home, or just don't talk to strangers.
Yeah. I mean, back then we didn't even have cell phones, and it was more. No. It was a lot more free. It felt like, the blood that Michael drank that he thought was wine. I guess that was David's, but could it be any vampire? Because I would assume that it was Max's, and maybe he just said it was his to cover for Max.
Well,
because then he was going to bite the mom at the end. So I was like, I feel like the rules were kind of a little shaky because it's like, why is he biting the mom? Doesn't all she have to do is drink the blood and then feed?
No, I think that you have to drink the blood from Max, right? Because it's I think it has to be from Max, not from one of the other vampires, because they're because in the second one, like they have one main vampire, and they're handing out his blood at a rave, as a drug, quote unquote drug or whatever, and but they kill all the other vampires. So you think, okay, is all that blood from that one vampire? And it's the same universe, so the same rules should apply in both films,
Yeah.
But I got a feeling, I think it has to be from like the head vampire, or the one an older vampire. Who knows? I mean, again.
Yeah, I think
between every movie it changes.
They were a bit shaky. Basically. Michael starts to get these symptoms. He starts flying. He's see-through in the mirror. He doesn't like light and all this kind of stuff. So he knows something's going on. He goes to Star and he asks her what's happening to her. She can't tell him. So I guess that's another rule, because she kept saying, I can't tell you what's happening to you. So I don't know if that's something like she was given a command by David or Max to not tell Michael what was going on. I guess it's one of those unsaid rules maybe that you have to, or
she just can't, nobody can really talk about it, or
maybe
she was embarrassed of it even,
he wouldn't believe her or something like that. I don't So, anyways, he starts and he actually goes after his brother Sam in the bathroom before Nanook, their husky, jumps and saves Sam's life by attacking Michael and bites his hand, which heals real quick later. You had Thorn, obviously was like a hellhound type vampire dog that would protect him during the day. And so I had to think that there was some kind of supernatural thing about the dog, because usually the dog's fine, but then during the day when it's protecting Max, he goes nuts.
I mean,
I would have liked to have seen not that I want dogs to get hurt, but I wanted to see a Thorn versus Nanook fight.
I mean, Nanook. Where did you even get that name?
It's it's an Alaskan. It's like a.
Oh, is it really?
I think it's like kind of like an Inuit name. And
okay.
Huskies from Alaska and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, so he finds out, and his brother Sam finds out, starts to believe. He gets the Frog Brothers. They come up with a plan on how to take care of it after they decide that Max isn't the head vampire, because they had invited him in, and so he didn't kind of have any reaction to any holy water or garlic or anything like that. So they go and they have this plan to go and get Star and Laddie out of the cave and to kill the vampires. They go and they kill Alex Winter's vampire. Kiefer Sutherland.
Snooze, you lose.
Right. One. So he was the first one that died, and you find out he comes once they kill him. Kiefer Sutherland chases the rest of them out, right?
Yeah,
and it's the Lost Boys is the first movie that used the glass contacts for any type of movie. And if you remember, whenever he goes to grab and he gets burned, it kind of closes up on his face, and he has a tear that falls down his face.
Yeah.
And what that was is because the contacts irritated Kiefer Sutherland's eyes so much, it made that tear come down. But Joel Schumacher was like, let's
keep it in there.
Let's keep it in there because his vampire brother had just died and everything. So they kind of kept it in there. It was kind of a cool little moment to go with Kiefer Sutherland's character.
Yeah. His thing is like, that's good movie making, like getting Schumacher to really say things like that. It just seems like it's kind of like he does stuff like that in his films. I mean, I'm trying to think, like with what was it?
Batman Forever.
Batman Forever. Yeah.
Batman and Robin.
Yeah, but Batman Forever. He is very Tim Burton esque of him, the way he films, and he does a lot of these kind of films very well, like these dark productions, and emo productions, I guess you could call them.
Well, I mean, like he had done before this he had done St. Elmo's Fire. After it he had done 8mm. What's the one? The Phone Booth.
Yeah.
With Kiefer Sutherland, and the Number 23. I mean, he's done some really good movies, so we don't know what happened in the Batman era. Well, I mean, it's all about the nipples. But I mean, he was Joel Schumacher. I mean, he was openly gay.
Yeah.
So he was a costume designer to begin with, right? And
which you can tell by watching Batman movies, especially.
Right. So I mean, it's all about the flair and making it bright and everything like that. But he's always talking about making things sexy. We got to put nipples on the bat suit to make it sexy. We got to
makes no sense.
Have the leather, and let's make this less of a kids movie and do that. But it comes off a little funky whenever you're talking about Batman, right?
Yeah, I mean, because these like the vampires in Lost Boys are kind of like the bad hair bands, representation of vampires. If you notice too.
Like we said, he even said, we got that twisted sister looking one up in the bathtub, So
exactly, where they got long hair and makeup, and so you look at them from behind and you think they're a girl, and nope. And
the reason Kiefer Sutherland looked like he did, what's his name? Billy Idol was popular at the time, and they wanted white hair, so he kind of like popularized the mullet from the Lost Boys in the 80s, and that's what kind of popularized it in modern times. So we can thank Kiefer Sutherland for that.
With a perm, as well,
Yeah. So, anyways, they rescue Star, they rescue Laddie, and they take him out of the cave and take him back to the house where the finale is at in the movie, and the vampires come, and actually Edgar Frog, played by Corey Feldman, he actually makes the comment about how Vampires can die in different ways, and he lists 4 different ways, and those 4 different ways are how the 4 different vampires went out. He said they can go screaming, they can go quiet, they can implode, and they can explode. The first one they killed, Marco, played by Alex Winter, he went screaming. The other 2 imploded and exploded, and David went quiet. But they had this, they had an all-out brawl in this set that was it was actually a set, it wasn't a house or anything, a set that was built. But I liked that they had
it made me think like maybe that was like Prince's basement. Like you saw that cave, and it was like this is what Prince's basement probably looks
Prince's
like.
basement.
Yeah.
I know. The flare,
the flare, the royal colors, the enormous chair. It looked like, probably Prince's basement.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a good point. I like in the house whenever they have all the taxidermy, right? So like you were talking about, these are monsters. These vampires are monsters. They're undead or dead monsters. And you look at the taxidermy around the house. I mean, that's what that is. It's dead monsters that still look alive. And so it's kind of like that cool little. They have a lot of little nods to
well, I think and you kind of joked about it by saying that it was like a hunter, like maybe the grandpa was a hunter when he was younger or something.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, if you really think about it, it kind of portrays that he is a hunter.
Yeah.
Because he does.
And he got the main kill at the end.
Yeah, he got the main kill. He killed the main vampire and everything. But it just kind of showed that he was a hunter. So I know you joked about it, but
his truck was loaded up with steaks. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Exactly. So in a way, he might have been killing vampires for a long time, that kind of thing. But it was kind of cool to see him come in at the end, because he was pretty much clueless throughout the rest of the movie. The beginning part of the movie, he's pretty much clueless, kind of off doing his own thing. You see him every once in a while, but then at this one, he comes in for the main kill.
Yeah, I liked. Did you see how whenever Max saw that when the Frog Brothers came in, when Max was coming to dinner, they came in and he kind of put his hand over his mouth. He looked real nervous. I think because they had businesses on the same boardwalk.
Yeah.
So I think he had assumed that these guys were kind of onto him a little bit, or kind of onto the whole
especially with the stuff
thing.
They were saying, like with giving him the garlic, saying it was cheese.
Right.
He ate the garlic, and he's.
But even before that, you got the sense that he kind of knew what they were. So it was cool that he was part of that as well.
Right.
And I liked at the end whenever after Kiefer Sutherland's character David died, Max went to go check on him, and he pulls his face over. The vampire makeup is gone, and he's shaved. I don't know if you noticed that. David had the kind of like a little scruff goatee, but it's completely clean shaven when he's dead. And it was kind of cool to show that, because it showed that he was just this innocent teenage boy.
Yeah.
And that he had turned into this monster, and that the Max character had turned him into this rebellious monster. That's why they're these lost boys. They never, they lost their families, they lost everything, and that's what that life had turned him into. And then when they died, because the other ones like blew up. Right. But with him, when he got staked, although it wasn't a wooden stake, it was antler horn, so I don't get that. But
yeah,
but you
know what? I swear that is not the first time that they've used that to kill vampires before.
Maybe, but it's always got to be
something else. Some other movie or TV show has done that before, where they've used antlers or something.
Oh, antlers specifically?
Yeah,
I don't know, because you have wood and then you have bone marrow.
I know.
Antlers. So it didn't make any sense. But they did say that they had an idea to bring Kiefer Sutherland back and show that they didn't actually go through his heart and all this kind of stuff. But I'm glad that was scrapped, because I like how they ended it.
Well, and I don't think Schumacher and Donner really imagined ever having more than one of these movies. Just like with Goonies, for instance.
He did, though. He
really did.
He had a plan to make Lost Girls, to where it was now like girl vampires and everything,
right.
And that Kiefer Sutherland was now the head person making his own deal.
Then why did they only did it in like 3 weeks? Then why did they film that movie and it took them 3 weeks to do it? It just kind of seems like it was like a. Maybe something that Richard Donner had wanted to do, and
he was supposed to direct it, and then he was doing Lethal Weapon, so he went and executive produced.
But it's extremely short filming time. Again, you can get that much done when you only have 3 scenery areas.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't know. Just, I mean, I know he said he wanted to make multiples, but it just didn't seem like it was the quality of expecting a second film. You know, I mean, and we know that, you know, probably Corey Feldman is the one that really pushed that second film. I mean, you know, probably.
Oh, the remake. Yeah, I mean, they probably came to him and said like, we want to do this and everything. Although he wasn't the main character for it, so who knows?
The sequel.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
I thought it was the dude and the girl because they were brother and sister, right? And they had met vampires and stuff.
Feldman is the he is.
I think you're thinking of part 3 because I remember this guy and
I just watched
and the girl
like
from the OC.
I just watched it like an hour or two ago.
I'll have to look at that
because the second one it's called.
The second one's called The Tribe, and the third one's called The Thirst. And that one I know Corey Feldman's the main character in.
Maybe that's what I ended up doing.
I think you did. Because that's when his brother came in. Because in The Tribe, it was just Corey Feldman.
Well, his brother was in the third one, too, or in this one as well.
Yeah,
you know?
but it was just in the second one, it had to do with this dude and this girl who she was from the OC, that she had replaced Misha Barton when Misha Barton was killed on the OC, Autumn Reeser. And her brother came to town, and they both kind of got into this vampire deal and everything. But
maybe that's what I'm thinking then. But
you probably skipped part 2.
They were well, for good reason.
Not that it matters.
They were pretty.
And the third one was supposed to be better anyway, so it's probably good that you watched that.
Yeah, but it just doesn't seem like it was. They were expecting to have a part 2, but I mean, I guess they were. I mean, I
know Jason Patrick wouldn't have been back for it. Most of the people wouldn't have been back for it. Keith Sutherland apparently was willing to do it, but
well, if you think about it, you know, nowadays probably the most successful person from that film would have to be Kiefer Sutherland. I mean, you know, nowadays,
yeah,
you know
without a doubt.
You know, I mean, he's done so many more pictures, so many more TV shows.
That's not to say like it's any more than Diane Wiest and
no, because that's the middle of her career.
Yeah,
you know,
like
where that's beginning
back
of
then
Kiefer's.
that they were born. Yeah, but up until now, yeah, Kiefer's probably done more. He's more iconic, and he's done his iconic roles, TV shows, you know, even Stand By Me.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like a lot of those other actors really didn't do much afterwards. I mean, you know, you had the Coreys, they had their run throughout the 80s, you know, and
they were all steady
early
workers,
90s.
but nothing big, crazy Hollywood productions.
No. Where you know, like with Kiefer, you know, definitely. I mean, he that guy's done probably better. I would have to say he's probably done better in TV shows than he has done in movies, in the long run. You know.
But yeah, he has 24 and Designated Survivor and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, those are those two main big roles. I mean, I think he'll always be remembered for Jack Bauer,
24,
which is like one of the best protagonists of all time. Yet he is just the best like villain of you know, when his looks and his voice. I mean, he's just such a good bad guy and everything.
Exactly.
Do you know when you think of this movie, what word do you think of the most? What is said most often in this movie?
Hairspray?
No. When you think of this movie, what word or name is said so many times in this movie?
Boys?
Michael.
Oh yeah.
You know how like whenever you think of Michael.
Yeah.
You know, and
Michael this, Michael that.
Yeah. Apparently, Michael is there's more instances of the word Michael than any other word in this movie. It's something like 130 times the word Michael is said. So it really kind of ingrains into you who the main character is, and
I'd have to disagree on that. I think it was Corey Haim. To be honest with you, I felt like he was the main character.
I think there's probably an argument to be made that they're equally main characters. You know, you have Michael on the vampire front, and you have Corey Haim's Sam on the home front. You know, dealing with his mom and the Frog Brothers and Max and all that kind of stuff, and then you know them coming together to fight both of them on the same.
I want to say that you know.
Michael, that was one of the darling kids in Peter Pan. So I mean, that was obviously meant to be You know,
but at the same time, you know, mainly the main character, especially during that period, you know, the main character is not going to be bad. You know what I mean? Like the main character, in your way of thinking, you know, saying that Michael's the main character, you know, he was also a vampire from almost the beginning of the film. You know, throughout the whole entire film, and he was a vampire and slowly changing, and so he was kind of at a weak point. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't one of the original vampires there, so he's still learning. So he's got a very weak character, Where Corey Haim, even though he's younger, he's the good guy. He's the knight in shining armor kind of thing. I mean, he's the hero of the film. And so usually the hero is the main character. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. I guess you can go either way on that one. But I think they did a really good job fleshing out all the characters. The two brothers, Sam and Michael. I mean, they spent a lot of time together to make sure you got that feeling that they were brothers and everything. And for as many characters, there's Lucy, Sam, Michael, Star, Laddie, the Frog Brothers, there's Max, there's the 4 vampires. 3 of them don't really get that much. I mean, Grandpa, for as many characters as they have, I mean, you're a third of the way through the movie and everybody's been fleshed out really well, and you get the sense of who their characters are. Like I said, besides the 3 other vampires who were just kind of there to be killed, they, and there to terrorize everybody and everything. Everybody else is very fleshed out, and the way that the actors that they got, the writing, the script, I mean, just everything was done so well. This is definitely, I think, the best vampire movie of all time.
I can't agree with you just because.
What's your favorite?
Buffy. I mean, you got Buffy.
You think that's your favorite? I know that's your favorite. Well, it's like your favorite vampire show, and you love the show. But you would say you would like the Buffy movie more than you like the Lost Boys?
Yeah, I really do. And with Buffy, it's a lot more comedic in there. You know what I mean? But it's
definitely.
It
got
just
Paul Rubens for God's sakes. Pee Wee Herman himself.
Yeah, but even then, it's a little bit of comedy. But I like that kind of vampire.
And David Arquette.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. He lost his arm. That's hilarious. But
we got to do Buffy.
We do. We really do. But I don't know. I'd have to say my favorite vampire in a vampire movie is going to have to be like, I don't know. I really liked Interview with the Vampire. Those vampires in general. I mean, because I like when they go into the history of the vampire. Like the vampire that lived 400 years ago, or 500 years, or was born 500 years ago, and it
Nosferatu.
It goes through history up to when they're alive today. You know what I mean?
What was the one with James Woods in it? Remember, he was a vampire hunter back in the
I think it was called like Vampire.
It was like Dracula or something like that.
Yeah, Dracula 2000 or...
No, that was the one with the dude from House.
No, that's right, Mike Epps.
Yeah.
Not Dracula. It was... I want to say it was Vampires or...
Yeah, it was probably just called Vampires or something like that.
Yeah.
I'll look it up, but
yeah,
that one I kind of enjoyed that one because he was a jerk in that one, and he was like the protagonist.
It had one of the Baldwin brothers, right? Yes, it did. Yeah, it was the bigger Baldwin, the fatter Baldwin.
So not Alec?
No, not well. They're all fat now, but except for Steven, I guess the younger one, he's kind of a lot skinnier than these guys. But these other guys, the other Baldwins are fat. But this was like he was known as the big Baldwin, I guess. Because he was seemed like he was taller than all of them. But he was in that movie with James Woods too.
Yeah, it was called Vampires, and it was Daniel Baldwin. He's the bigger one, and that also had Thomas Ian Griffith, who we mentioned in our last couple episodes, Karate Kid and Cobra Kai. He was the little Terry Silver rich dude that made Daniel's life miserable. But I thought that was a good movie. I always liked that movie. I hadn't seen it in forever, but I always liked that movie. And I know, James Woods is kind of persona non grata in Hollywood nowadays because of his views and everything.
He's awesome.
But yeah, so I mean, I like those movies. Interview with the Vampire, even Queen of the Damned.
I liked Queen of the Damned because of the soundtrack.
The soundtrack. I mean, Jonathan Davis wrote that whole soundtrack, and stupid record company wouldn't let him do all the songs because the soundtrack was coming out on a different record company. So he had to get people like Disturbed, dude from Disturbed, and other people to sing his songs. But you can hear him sing in the movie, which is really cool and everything. He's the voice of Lestat. When Lestat singing, and it also had Aaliyah. And her last film appearance was in Queen of the Damned.
Crazy.
Everything. It was an all right movie.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
I thought it was an all right movie. It definitely wasn't the best. I'm not a huge fan of Stuart Townsend.
It made me think of a musical. It was like Interview with the Musical or something.
I don't like musicals. I will say the only musical I really like is Sweeney Todd, but I don't like musicals besides that.
To me, it was a musical. You know what I mean? Because
I'll go
like
to
the
theater
story
if I want
was
a musical.
yeah, the story was stupid, and that even getting different characters to play Lestat, and I wasn't a fan.
Yeah,
I love the soundtrack though. The soundtrack was amazing, but that was about it. So.
Nothing beats "Cry Little Sister" in my opinion. That's got to be one of the, if not the greatest songs to come from a movie. I'm sure. Have you seen
Say Anything? Have you seen Say Anything?
Yeah, but those movies.
It's even got a scene that goes.
I know,
with
but
it.
those movies had songs that were from outside of the movie that they used in the movie. This one was written specifically for the movie. So I'm talking about songs that were written specifically for the movie. It's got to be the best song to come out of a movie.
No, Ninja Turtles 2. Okay, Vanilla Ice.
Yo, it's the Green Machine, gonna rock the town without being seen. Have you ever seen a turtle get down?
Ninja, rap, ninja.
That was the greatest song written for a movie ever, Matthew.
You know how much that's hated by a lot of
care.
TMNT fans.
I loved every minute.
I actually. The Secret of the Years.
You don't go watch those movies.
Probably my favorite.
Yeah, and you don't go watch those movies.
At least Tide was the original.
Yeah, and you don't go watch those movies thinking that you're going to get anything serious out of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Okay?
And especially if you know going in from the trailers that Vanilla Ice is going to be in it and everything. But
yeah, I know. I mean, I give you that. I jest, but that song, "Cry Little Sister," it was just. It is a pretty darn good song, and especially if it's written for. The movie, it was really good.
Do you think this movie would have worked without any one particular person?
Star, really?
Well, you mean she could be interchangeable?
No,
I think like
as the character or the actor.
Like what I'm saying is, would this movie have worked if they would have taken away any one particular actor? And it wouldn't have been as good. My opinion is, I think if Kiefer Sutherland hadn't been in the role of David, I don't think it would have been as good because he's just so juicy and 80s menacing. He played, like maybe it's funny to say, even though he's a vampire, but a least sadistic person than he did in Stand By Me when he, he's with the body and the knife and everything, and he was going to try to kill these kids and everything. But, I don't think it with his voice and the way he looked and his little comments and smirks and everything. I'm sure we would have liked it to a point, but I don't know if it would have worked as well without him.
Or really Corey Feldman, to be honest with you. I mean, because he played it. It's supposed to be somewhat serious, but he was good color for the movie. He was, but you couldn't get somebody that would play that role probably as well,
or even Corey Haim, because Corey Haim was just so talented in this movie. I mean, just you have these little things like the little comments. What was it? My favorite lines. There's some cussing in this line, but it's just as funny. He goes, "My own brother, a vampire. Oh, you wait till mom finds out." And it's just so what a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old would say. Oh, you wait till mom finds out. I'm gonna tell on you. When his brothers become like this undead monster, and that's the best response you can come out with.
And even also the head vampire too. They made him so gave him the dad fashion look. You know what I mean? So it was just. You knew something was up with him, but you didn't quite know.
You're talking about Max or Edward Herman?
Yeah. You just didn't really know what was up with him, but he played that character so well. Just a, bow tie wearing, suit tying wearing. Wears his pants around his waist like normal people.
Yeah. And the story structure, you don't even realize until the end that you haven't seen this guy out in the daylight. You usually see him in nighttime scenes, but it kind of glosses over well enough to where you kind of don't pick up on it, and even if you do, it gives you other things that maybe he's not, because the David and the people are messing with him as well, and he's kind of like looking around like he doesn't know what's going on, and whenever they throw the holy water on him and garlic and everything, and he can see himself in the mirror and everything, so it's enough to throw you off. To where, by the end of it, when you kill David and, there's about 30 seconds where it's like, well, he's not turning. You're like, okay, well, that Max guy then is the vampire.
And you kind of wonder if the way that they made Max's character, how they explained how the holy water didn't affect him and the garlic affect him. You kind of start to wonder, you're like, is that because they were like, holy cow, there's a bunch of plot holes here? Or
remember he
it from the
explained it.
get-go.
He explained it, and that's what I had said earlier. Is that
no? I mean, I get that. I get what you were saying and how he explained it. But you don't know if that maybe at the end of the film they're like,
oh crap, we got to explain that.
Yeah, we got all these plot holes here. Let's.
You invited him in, so now you have no power over him.
So
you have no weapon.
And for all we know, that could be that could have been what happened, or for all we know, that was just the original plan from the get-go. But
maybe
it's
that's part of vampire mythology too. I don't know.
Whatever.
So. Anyways, we really enjoyed this movie. We recommend you guys watching it. Sadly, Joel Schumacher passed away a couple months ago in June. And so, we were looking at some of his movies, and this is definitely our favorite of his. So we wanted to do this episode on The Lost Boys. If you get a chance to watch it, definitely give it a look-see. I think you'll be hooked by that first song, that first opening song.
Or if you haven't seen it in 25, 30 years, go watch it.
It holds up.
It really does.
It holds up. It's not like an old movie like RoboCop or certain other ones that may not hold up as well nowadays. I think it's structured and paced. And edited, and everything's done very well with it. And it's aged very well because I still watched it and got a lot of enjoyment out of it today.
And if it's not in your movie collection, it probably should be. It really should be. It should be one of those movies, the great top 100 movies of all time. That should be in your collection.
And same with Cry Little Sister. That should be on your playlist as well. Love it, love it, love it. Definitely go give it a listen. Great movie. We really enjoyed it. If you guys want to get a hold of us, you can find us at the Post Credit Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. Our email is thepostcreditpodcast@gmail.com. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next time.
Throw me a bone.